Hey guys, this is Dave with Audio, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Tanchjim KARA, which is Tanchjim's newest 5-driver hybrid IM. I've been kind of keeping an eye on this one, and I've come across a few teasers on social media, and it's been a while since they've released anything in this price range, so I know there was definitely some consumer anticipation kind of built up over this release. At least I know that was definitely the case with me, so I'm really excited to get into this. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at what's included in the box with the KARA. Of course, we have the IEMs and cable. It also comes with a very nice case and a nice assortment of TAPB ear tips. As for the price, specifications, and design, the KARA comes in at $179 and has a hybrid driver configuration consisting of 4 balanced armature drivers and a single dynamic driver. It uses a 3-way analog crossover, so they basically use 3 acoustic tubes to divide the frequencies. And the drivers are housed in a medical grade resin shell, which has a pretty cool design. The faceplate definitely looks unique with the combination of clear and this kind of etched glass look. The cable is made using silver plated copper wire. It has 2-pin connections with a 3.5 termination, and it goes nicely with the aesthetics of the IEM and case. It also is easy to untangle and store, especially in the supplied case, which is quite roomy and has a padded interior and semi-hard structure. Okay, let's talk about the sound of the Tanchjim KARA. The overall sound signature is what I would consider to be neutral and is basically tuned very closely to the Harman target, but with a little extra mid-bass warmth. But while there is some extra mid-bass and low-mid presence, the mid-range as a whole is still quite balanced. Now, as you move into the upper mid-range, it doesn't come across as overly forward nor overly recessed, and seems to me like it has just the right amount of ear gain and mid-range or upper mid-range presence. However, there does seem to be a little extra mid-treble presence, but then it seems to lose a little bit of upper treble presence. But if we look a little closer, starting with the bass, the KARA has decent extension, so it gives you good levels of sub-bass rumble. In terms of bass quantity, it's just about right to me, although it does have just a tad bit more bass maybe than I would prefer. However, they did still manage to keep the transition from the mid-bass to the lower mids very clean, so there is no bass pleat, and it still retains good levels of mid-bass texture and lower mid clarity. Of course, this having a dynamic driver handling the bass, you get good dynamics, punch, and impact as well. And then as you move into the mid-range, you do have, again, a little extra lower mid-range presence, which gives some instruments that land in that frequency area and also some male vocals some added richness and a little note weight, which is nice. But again, because of the way they tuned the mid bass and the lower mids, they've managed to keep that transition nice and clean. So you have plenty of lower mid-range detail and clarity, which carries nicely through the rest of the mid-range as well. And as far as the general mid-range presentation, I would say it tends to lean a little more polite, which is okay with me because it doesn't have that overly forward pushing of vocals and instruments. But at the same time, some may consider it to be a little too polite and might feel it lacks in vocal energy and maybe even lacking in a little bit of instrument energy as well. And that also does seem to affect upper mid-range clarity just a little bit. In terms of timbre, instrument and vocals sound correct, and while they may have, again, a little less energy, the mids and upper mids are still tuned in a manner as to give instruments a nice, natural presentation overall. Then moving out of the mids into the treble, there is a little extra mid-treble presence that does help to restore some instrument detail and also gives drums, cymbals, a little extra energy and attack. Overall, treble detail is also good. However, I do wish there was just a little more upper treble presence because it seems to be lacking ever so slightly in terms of air and sparkle. That's not to say it has none, it does. Again, I just like a little bit more of that air and sparkle. And again, even though it does seem to be lacking slightly in the lower treble clarity, as you get up in the upper treble, it does seem to have a little better detail retrieval up in the higher treble frequencies. Again, I wish it had a little more air and sparkle. As for technicalities, I would say it's about on par with other IEMs around the $150 to $200 price range, but still falling just short of the technical capabilities of the Performer 5. Soundstage is what I would consider to be about average for an IEM, so it's not necessarily wide, but I wouldn't consider it intimate either. And in terms of detail retrieval, I would say it's about on par with IEMs in this price range. So about equal to IEMs like the Yume 2, Yume Ultra, Duno Talos, etc. Which again, it's totally acceptable for this price range. Again, it's on par with about everything else, just not quite up to the levels of the Performer 5. As far as imaging and separation, I would say it's pretty good, but because of its more relaxed presentation, I do feel it maybe makes instruments and vocals a little harder to place within the sound field. Not that you can't place them, they just seem to have a little less density, and they can kind of sound like they're floating within a certain area of the sound field and maybe just don't sound quite as anchored within their position, but it's not distracting at all. It's still, again, I think it's within reason for this price range. So if I had to summarize my experience with the Kara, I would say I really did get lots of enjoyment out of it for the most part. The tuning is very good. Instruments sound quite natural, and while again it may not have quite the amount of upper treble that I prefer, it's still adequate. And the Kara did very well with almost every genre of music that I tested it with. That being said, there wasn't really anything that wowed me or any specific attribute that stood out to me. It was just a very good IEM for this price range, and I'm okay with that. But the question is, do I give it my recommendation? And the answer is yes, because despite it maybe not being the absolute best at this price, it's still very good. And I think its tuning is safe enough to have a broad consumer appeal. So well done, Tanchjim. Again, it's not the best in its price range, but it is a very good IEM and an overall very solid package for the price. So that concludes my review of the Tanchjim KARA. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. If you like my content, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you would, please like this video, please share this video. I hope you have an awesome day.